The Browns were back in pads yesterday, the first padded practice of the 2021 season. The steps that we keep taking to get closer to real football keep coming, and you can smell it and you can taste it and you can feel like you're much closer to it. I believe the Hall of Fame game is tomorrow, so we are so close to actual football. I'm excited. What happened in that padded practice? Was there anything of note? Well, we'll talk about that. But before I get into that, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. Also want to give a shout out to the patreon.com dog check tier members. And I'm going to start with Michael Matique, Nick Merrick, Mike Lapa, Wesson Megan, Tyler Chiz, D.A. Jade, Easley Bash, Joe Hart, Gabriel Wilson, Fred Pratt III, David Valtier, Relentless Buck, Chunt, Rex Kaufman, Kevin Johnson, DJ Marino V, Edward Carpenter, Matt H, Sign Sheets, Gemini, Liam Freeman, Fight Dirty 74, Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hundo Magnifico, Kyle Stuffer, Lukey from Munich, Deveroff, J Guy 101, Musty Taco, Joe Bobby, Brad Cabo, Dylan W, James McGinley, Arenda Hall, Chad Gimme, David Maldonado, Dylan Hell, Josh Mendorch, Jaleel Salim Jr., Mark M, TJ Showman, Stuart Moore, Cleveland BCI, Robert Jermaine Jr., Dave, Mike May, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Byer, Batman, Bharat Kumar, John Albert, Beerman069, Masayua Buzzer, Roland James, Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Philip Wilcox, Marie Vivert, Sean Barron, Goggles Pisano, Corporal Nick Lopez, Dom Gazzulo, Nick Nasty, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216 Christian, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Billy Moose Gentry, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, Dog Pound, Kai Greg Ehlers, Austin Bolin, Lydia Mahawk, Jesus Serrano, Chris Foams, the Picktown Browns backers, Max Neelakenko, Mark Khan, Max Al Dojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for your support. It means a ton. Now, let's jump into the video. All right, so with pads on, we got to see a different element and really be able to evaluate different things. Now, again, they didn't tackle to the ground or anything like that. These weren't completely live like that, but they were a lot more physical, again, padded. So you saw more physicality, and where that's going to really matter is the offensive line, right? I think the offensive defensive line thing was interesting. And at the beginning of this practice, you got to see some interesting one-on-ones. I think we learned a little bit about some players, some good, some bad. Marvin Wilson is somebody that I have mentioned before. I think he had a really strong practice today. Had a couple of good plays in one-on-one drills, did some solid work in team drills. I really like what we're seeing out of Marvin Wilson. And again, 65. When these preseason games start and they start to get into the second or third quarter, because he's probably going to be running third string, he's going to be somebody you want to keep an eye on, because if he's popping there, it's very likely that he's going to make this roster. Again, the pedigree there of a guy who was touted as a first-round pick just a year ago, went back to Florida State, bad year, goes undrafted, unfortunately, but falls into the Browns' hands there. So this is a guy who at one point in time was looked at as a first-round pick, and if he can play like that, like he did his junior year at Florida State, the Browns really did get a gem there as an undrafted free agent. He did that on Nick Harris a couple of times. Nick Harris did not have a good day of practice today. Togiai got some pushback on him. Marvin Wilson got some pushback on him. It's unfortunate. One of the things I noticed about Nick Harris last year that was an issue was his strength. He just didn't seem strong enough to play guard when they had him at guard. Now, that's out of position for him. He's a smaller guy. He's like 5'10" instead of like 6'2", like most guards are. So I was like, okay, that's fine. He's not a guard. We kind of knew that going into this, but it still doesn't seem like he's strong enough to kind of hold his own in there on the inside. And it seems like if he has to be in the game, somebody has to help him. That might be a problem. Nick Harris is also somebody to watch. He might be on the bubble. He was a guy who was highly touted coming out of Washington as a fifth-round pick. But again, the size thing, sometimes it's an issue for guys, sometimes it's not, right? A.Q. Shipley is one of the strongest offensive linemen, or was one of the strongest offensive linemen. He was around Nick Harris's height at 5'10". But it just seems like it's a problem for him. It seems like he's easily bull rushed back a lot by guys, and especially guys, the heavier guys, like a Marvin Wilson or a Tommy Togiai or, a Andrew Billings. It seems like he can get pushed around easily. And again, it's going to be hard for him to make the roster. That keeps happening to him. But overall, we saw some good stuff out of the big guys. I like where Marvin Wilson's going. I like where Tommy Togiai's going. I like what we're seeing out of the young guys. Wyatt Teller had a good day of practice. You know, he's a guy you want to keep an eye on, make sure he's as good as he was last year, just because last year was kind of one good year out of the blue almost. So, you know, you want to make sure he maintains that level of play, make sure that wasn't a fluke. He had a good practice today, had one good highlight where he kind of floored Malik Jackson before he can get to the quarterback. So, again, good technique, good strength by Wyatt Teller. He looks good. He looks ready to go. Now let's talk about some of these team drills, some of the offensive stuff, some of the interesting stuff, especially if you're going to be somebody who's going to want to watch all 4 quarters at the preseason game. Third running back situation. John Kelly, Dearness Johnson had really good days today. Again, I like John Kelly's burst. He wears a weird number 49, but he seems like he can run upright, real strong, real quick, real fast, catch the ball decently enough for a running back. And Dearness Johnson, he's been here for a couple of years. He looks good. I mean, if you're ranking these guys by their ability to run the football, he's obviously the 3rd best running back on the team. He can do some of the receiving stuff as well, do some of the 3rd down running back stuff. Demetric Felton didn't get a lot of snaps as a running back today. He was out there with the wide receivers. So that's going to be another interesting situation to watch, right? They have Demetric Felton. I think they have plans for Demetric Felton. They also have Dearness Johnson, who is clearly running back 3. There might be some competition in there with John Kelly. But how does Demetric Felton run in the preseason, right? How does he look as a running back in the preseason? How does he look like as a receiver? And does his versatility give him enough to where the Browns can justify keeping 4 running backs? Because that looks like the direction that they're going to go into. Mack Wilson is another guy who had a good practice today. He needs a lot of good practices, right? He's a guy who is on the bubble without Anthony Walker out there, and Anthony Walker should be out there in a couple of weeks, according to some reports. So he's not seriously injured, not going to need surgery or anything. I know a lot of people were worried about that. But Mack Wilson, he needs to use this as an opportunity to step up. They got Jacob Phillips right now taking those starting snaps for Anthony Walker. If you're Mack Wilson, you need to get those snaps back. You need to find a way to get yourself on the football field. And if Anthony Walker is going to miss a preseason game, you need to make sure that you pop in those situations because, again, he is fighting for a roster spot here. Had a good practice, took an interception on a David Njoku play that the Browns use a ton where they kind of line up David Njoku over the seam, have him jump really high, and then Baker tries to throw him a bullet right into his hands. I think he scored a touchdown on that against Baltimore and Cincinnati last year. Mack Wilson makes a really incredible play, really athletic play, gets his hands in there, picks it off. That's what you want to see out of Mack Wilson. That's what Mack Wilson is supposed to bring. He's a really athletic linebacker. That's what you hope to see out of him consistently. So if he can continue to do that, if he can kind of shore up some of the mental things that he had that were issues with him last year, then I do think there's a strong case for him to make this roster. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill battle. We haven't seen much out of Tony Fields, though. And Jacob Phillips is right now, trying to learn where he should be. So Mack Wilson, this is a prime opportunity for him to steal a roster spot. He needs to take advantage, and he's on to a good start. And then Baker Mayfield, he was pretty good today. Still not throwing to Odell or Jarvis, but did have Rashard Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones out there. Donovan Peoples-Jones did look really good today in one-on-one drills. Same thing can be said with Jadeveon Clowney. Same thing can be said with Myles Garrett. So a lot of guys looking good in one-on-one drills today. Again, the Browns have really good players this year. I think that's kind of one of the takeaways. But Baker looked really good today. It's really nice to see the first day in pads. Baker looks good. Had a really beautiful throw to Austin Hooper. And then this throw to David Njoku that he had, this is incredible. I think it got kind of undersold by a lot of people, but he throws this off his back foot, backing away, and then just right into the breadbasket with David Njoku. So when people tell you that Baker Mayfield has nothing special about him, they're lying, because this is the stuff that he kind of does that people kind of take for granted at this point, is that ability to kind of be that accurate on that play. So Baker looked good. I think some parts of the defense looked good. I think Greg Newsome showed some flashes too in practice today. There's a lot of guys who looked good. I think overall these practices are heading in the right direction so far. Not a lot of balls hitting the ground, not a lot of stilted stuff. Again, a bad practice when you see it. They haven't had one yet so far. So again, things are pointing up. I am really intrigued to see what this unit looks like on the preseason in some live kind of situations here. Some of these things you kind of know are going to hold up a little bit better, right? You know Baker's going to be good in live situations. He played 3 years. You know things with the offense are probably going to be pretty good. The defense is really where you want to see some things go down when it's live, and I think that's going to be interesting to watch. But that's my thoughts on the Browns' first padded practice. If you're able to catch it, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But again, guys, have a great day. Have a good night.